Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Nielson and Hustler back with you once again. Lock Shop, as always, presented by our wonderful partners at Coolbet. Sign up for an account today. Use the code LOCKSHOP when you sign up for an account so they know we sent you. Huss, how was your Sunday, my man?
Well, it was great with the exception of the demise of the partner parlay, which involved the demise of my Kansas City Chiefs. I still can't believe they lost that football game. A bad fake punt, a missed extra point, a missed field goal. Listen, and one of the stupidest penalties you will ever see. I was so triggered. Chris Jones, they sacked Matt Ryan. It's 4th and 1,000,000 on the Indy 30 with about 4 minutes left. And Jones gets in his face, takes a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty, gets them right back in. Matt Ryan puts a couple in. And so anyways, and thank God the Bills lost, because if that was what took the parlay down and the Bills got up a game on the Chiefs, I would have been really triggered. But it was a wild, wild day of football. There were some really interesting games. And let me just tell you that the boys in the Lock Shop are back. We had to kind of walk before we ran in the first couple weeks. Yeah. But, man, we had an awesome, awesome weekend. And, man, it was great seeing the tweets come in for people that were riding with the parlay I gave out in the Saturday show, as well as if you got those picks in the Texans at 3.5, we ended up cashing just about a 12-to-1er on my picks as well. So it was great. Oh, and Josh Allen plus 900.
And Josh Allen. I was going to say, you can't forget Josh Allen plus 900 to lead the league in passing yesterday. That was a great one. 9-to-1 for Josh Allen. Puts up 400 yards. Tua puts up like $180, and Josh Allen loses that football game. Absolutely remarkable.
Tua, I don't know how Tua was back in that game in the second half.
Yeah, that did not look like a smart decision, buddy. That's a football. We're playing the Bills. Tua, how many fingers am I holding up? Oh, yeah, that's right. Perfect. All right, let's get you back out there. Like, that was not a great look.
But anyways, weird that those two teams lost. Then, of course, you had Justin Herbert gut it out and play, and they got their asses kicked by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tell you what, that little 7-to-1 Jags to win the AFC South isn't looking too bad right now. They're a legit team right now, Dusty, and the rest of that division stinks.
Yeah, no, that's we said it, right? We say it every year. It's like, which team goes from worst to first? And there always is one. And what was the number on the Jags? What'd you have that number at? What was it?
The Jags was 7-to-1.
7-to-1.
And then funny enough, we're going to get to the Giants. The Giants was 8-to-1 and the Panthers were 11-to-1. Those were the three kind of long shot division bets we hit on that final future show before the season started. So, hey, it's, as I said, this is going to be very interesting to see. It always happens. And it seems like the Jags now with a competent coach look like a completely different team than the mess they were under Urban Meyer. And no one is benefiting more from Doug Peterson's presence than Trevor Lawrence.
Jake Bolin Moss from Coolbet is going to join us, and we'll dive into our Monday night picks after we get some of his thoughts on Sunday. We'll see if he's recovered from the Thursday nighter yet. That was obviously a tough one. Like, how do you approach the rest of your weekend when you're in full tilt meltdown on Thursday? So we'll get into that. Huss, there's two teams. Well, the Giants could get there tonight. If the Giants win tonight, they go to 3-0. And would move into a tie for first place in their division, actually, with the Eagles. And the Miami Dolphins are at 3-0. So let's just forget about the Giants for now. And I think we both are on them to maybe get to 3-0 tonight. But from the Eagles and the Dolphins, both guys kind of came into the season with quarterbacks that you're like, big year for both. They've given two of the pieces, and they bring in A.J. Brown, and maybe that's one of the reasons both these guys are doing so well. You got Tyreek Hill in one spot and emerging Jalen Waddle. You got A.J. Brown in the other spot and emerging Devontae Smith. But if you had to say which one of these two teams you think is more legit right now after a 3-0 start, would you side with the Dolphins or would you side with the Eagles?
Geez, that's a tough question. I think I might actually side with the Eagles, like personnel-wise. But I'll tell you, if we're just looking at what they've done so far, the Dolphins have certainly had the more impressive wins. They beat the Bills yesterday. They had that crazy comeback on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. And you look at the Eagles, I mean, what they had the Lions in week 1 and they beat the Commanders, who are certainly one of the 5 worst teams in the National Football League. But then you think about what the Eagles did on Monday night against, I still think, a pretty good Vikings team. And they're there. So listen, I think I do like Eagles more, long-term for this season. But I'll tell you what Mike McDaniel's got going in Miami is pretty awesome right now. And obviously they got a season-changing win over, the clear-cut favorite to not only win the AFC East, but win the AFC.
Yesterday with those Chiefs, man, the Chiefs just, I know for you, just as a fan, it killed you. But for me, I had them in a bunch of different money line parlays. That killed me. I had the Commanders and the Eagles going over. I even bought it down to 43.5 in one of my parlays, and they still couldn't get that done as well. The Commanders, who played some high-scoring games, just couldn't get anything going against that Eagles team. And Jalen Hurts, I'm going to put him on the same level as Lamar. Lamar Jackson right now leads the league in passing touchdowns, leads the league in passer rating, and is 4th in the league in rushing yards. And the Baltimore Ravens still didn't want to give this guy guaranteed money. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. He's insane. If you got Lamar in fantasy, you've got to be unbeaten at this point.
Oh, my God. He's had a couple monster games right now. And I think even though they had that loss last week where the Dolphins came back, I think if you look at the performances of all the top QBs so far, Josh Allen had those 2 great games, but he was off yesterday, as were the Bills. I mean, to me, Lamar is right there near the top of the early MVP conversation in the National Football League right now. Listen, they needed that one. And I didn't think there was that line all week seemed so fishy, but I'm like, how were they not going to come back and win after what happened against the Dolphins? And unfortunately for the New England Patriots, they were in the way of Lamar and the Ravens.
All right, Jake Bolin Moss is going to join us, but let's dive into our Monday nights. We can kind of take a look at the spread and the total, and then when Jake joins us, maybe we'll come back around to some of our player props, Huss. And interesting game tonight between the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, and we're both seeing it the same way here, which could be good news, could be a disaster for the Lock Shop. Who knows on Monday night? So far on Monday night, you can see our totals over on the right side. We've been really good with the total so far. Of course, last week we had the double dip. We went with some individual team totals last week, and it worked out. We're a perfect 4-0 there, and then against the spread so far, 2-1 and 1-2. And we're on the Giants -1. Huss, tell me what the number one reason is for you that we're on the Giants tonight.
Well, to be honest, this is somewhat a fate of the Cowboys. I mean, I know they got that win last week over the Cincinnati Bengals, but I mean, I still think that the Cowboys, as presently constructed with Cooper Rush, are going to have a tough time putting up points. And these games have always been tight. I mean, we're looking at the total right now. I mean, it's under 40 at 39.5. And listen, I think the Giants just right now, despite the fact that they've got some receiver injuries as well, I think having who their defense has played so far, as well as Saquon Barkley, puts them in a good position to win a tight. I mean, listen, if this game was in Dallas, I'd probably be on the Dallas side of things.
Yep,
I mean, there's a
I
reason
agree.
why this is very close to being a pick 'em. But I'll tell you what, I've sort of been impressed with how the Giants have gotten it done so far. And I'll tell you what, I think Brian Daboll, 2 games into his NFL head coaching career, is already a hell of a lot better than Mike McCarthy. So give me the Giants in this one right now. I don't think it's going to be a classic. That being said, it couldn't be any worse than that dog's breakfast we saw last night on the primetime game between the Niners and Broncos.
Yeah, that was an absolutely horrendous. I mean, the only way anybody in the world could have liked that football game last night was if you had a no sweat underplay. I mean, that's the only way, because the rest of that game was just shit last night. What a horrible, horrible football game to watch. To me, I think Cowboys Giants tonight should be a pretty close football game. I think it comes, and when you see a close game like this, I think it comes down to, who's got the best game breaker offensively that could make a difference here or there, and it's Saquon Barkley. With what we've seen so far this year, the answer to that is Saquon Barkley, and we're going to get to it a little bit later on. Lock Shop Play of the Day, watch for that coming up over at the Cool Bet accounts. It's going to be Saquon related as well. I think Saquon Barkley is something that the Giants have that the Dallas Cowboys simply don't right now. And then the fact that the momentum that they've got here with the new head coach and what they're able to accomplish. Let's quickly do the total, then we'll bring in Jake. He's waiting here. We're both on the under 39.5 here, Huss. Let me ask you this. Are you more confident in the under than you are in the Giants? Where do you come out on that?
Good question. I might be, actually. I don't think both of these teams are lighting it up. That's all I'll say to that. I mean, I think that can we get an over under on the number of punts for the game? How about that? Because that would be
17 last night for over 800 yards.
Dude, the Broncos had 9 3-and-outs last night. What a start. And yet they won. And they're I don't know how the heck they pulled that off. But yeah, no, listen, I think as far as the under goes, as I said, you look at last week's game when they won, it was 20-17. Neither of these teams are going to be mistaken for the Buffalo Bills of the last couple of weeks of the Chiefs by any stretch of the imagination. So, I think field position is going to be important. I think there's going to be a lot of running as well, which will kind of take the clock down. So I do like the under in this game. And I would say probably if you asked me if I had to make one wager on either the spread or the total, I think I'd probably take the total on the under.
Yeah, I think I'd probably take the total on the under as well. That's why we wanted to ask that. All right, Jake Bolin Moss about to make his lock shop debut. A big one here. Yeah. Although he was a topic of discussion last Friday. That's for sure after the Thursday night meltdown. Let's get an update. Jake, first of all, how do you recover heading into a weekend after being on full-blown tilt Thursday night?
Yeah, I tell my buddies all the time in the group chat, the only way out is through. So you just got to keep chugging along, guys. You just got to keep chugging along. There's going to be bad beats. You just got to keep it going.
Yeah, for those that maybe missed Friday's show, Jake had the Steelers tease to 10.5 and the under tease to 44.5, and we all remember the last play of that game. It was it's an all-timer. Pretty wild day. How did things go from Coolbet's perspective yesterday? You had the Chiefs and Bills lose, but there was a lot of interesting upsets that if people were on it, probably made some money.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I imagine it went all right. I think a lot of, obviously, the sharp money this week was on the Colts. That was a big one. And I'd mentioned that to you earlier in the week. I know we had a little conversation, and I don't often get to tell you I told you so, but I knew something was up with that line. It should have been closer to double digits, in my opinion. So, yeah, obviously the Sharps got theirs, but I think the public probably heavy in the Chiefs. Even like I heard Dusty was talking about money line parlays and stuff like that. I'm sure the Bills were in a ton of money line parlays. So, yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me myself, but I think it was probably a fine weekend for the books. You know how it goes in the NFL. It's any given Sunday, right?
Sometimes we have good ones. Sometimes we don't. And it's crazy because our partner parlay didn't cash, but our regular picks against the spread were near perfect from Friday's episode, Huss, which is that never sits well with me. That's what really drives me nuts. How can we go 6-2 or 7-1 or whatever against the spread, but can't put together a 3-game money line parlay? It doesn't add up.
No kidding. Jake, I had a couple people that tailed my picks with Houston at 3.5. So that cashed in, and if you parlayed it, I got it at about plus 1150. I think one of the listeners had plus 1165. And on Saturday, gave out a Falcons, Panthers, Jags parlay that cashed in at just under 7-1. And then Josh Allen at plus 900 for the Sunday special. Most passing yards was a good one. So we actually had a bunch of big wins. However, what should have been the easiest one of them all to catch got taken down by the Chiefs and Bills. So it is what it is. What was the game that interested you the most? What was the one that you watched or it caught your attention? And it certainly wasn't the Sunday nighter. I know that.
Yeah, I was out on the golf course yesterday. I had a tournament yesterday going on. So I didn't get to catch too much of the action. I had the Sunday nighter on for the first half. I turned it off. I'm an avid House of the Dragon watcher now, so I jumped on that a little earlier than expected. But yeah, no, I think I don't know what's going on in the NFC right now. Like, I know you guys talked about it a little earlier, but that Eagles team looks really good. I have Hurts in fantasy. I know you're talking about Lamar Jackson owners being undefeated. I'm undefeated right now with Hurts. I think they're showing now both sides of the ball. They're really good, and they're going to be a problem going forward here. Obviously, Bills Miami was a big one. I saw some of the highlights. Obviously, I saw something going on with a punt off the guy's buttocks.
Oh, yeah,
something
right off
like
the
that.
ass.
So, yeah, it seemed like a crazy day yesterday. It's unfortunate that I did miss the action, but I do like to hop on Red Zone and really see everything happen as it happens. But yeah, no, I think the NFL is the best league in the world, and I think this is one of the weekends that kind of shows us why, right?
Well, we'll see about that after this Monday nighter because we could have back-to-back dogs for a primetime game. So,
Yeah.
What are you expecting tonight?
What do you like, buddy?
The Cowboys.
Yeah, I was looking at some stuff before I hopped on here because I knew you guys were going to ask, and I have no idea what I like. Daniel Jones rushing yards kind of stood out to me. I don't mind that. I think it was around 26.5. I think both the Cowboys and the Giants have done a solid job at limiting the passing yards from opposing offenses this year. So I figure if Jones gets in trouble, he's got nothing downfield. He can pick it up with his legs. We've seen him have some big games in his kind of young career here on the ground. So I don't mind that. But other than that, I saw you guys are both on the under. I hate taking unders. College football unders have been killing me lately, but I might have to ride with you guys because it's another gross one. Like last night was disgusting to the point where I couldn't watch the second half because I knew it was so bad. I'm worried tonight's going to look a lot like that. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the crowd who's like, oh, you got to get back to Jimmy. Trey Lance doesn't have it. You got to get back to Jimmy. And then Jimmy steps out of bounds and joins the Dan Orlovsky club in the game while throwing a pick. Like, come on, man. That just summarized last night's game perfectly. I thought that was absolutely terrific. Jake, man, we appreciate you hopping on with the Lock Shop, buddy. We're going to definitely have you on a lot more, banging out 5 or 6 episodes a week. I did fire you the Lock Shop play of the day as well, so you should have that in your hands, and we're looking forward to that too, buddy.
Thanks, JBM.
Thanks a lot, boys.
There you go. That's Jake Bolin Moss. Find him on Twitter, just straight up at Jake Bolin Moss. As for a couple of player props, Huss, he brought up Daniel Jones. You don't mind Daniel Jones tonight. I'm a big Saquon guy tonight. What do you got? Who are you looking at for props tonight?
Well, I actually think that this Jones anytime touchdown's a nice bet that I'm going to get on because of Saquon. Danny Dimes can run. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, and Dable, I think, is going to design some plays that are designed to get him into some open space. But the bottom line is, especially when you get in and around the goal line, I think so much focus is going to be on Saquon Barkley that the creativity of Dable might be able to design the odd bootleg or something where Danny Dimes could get in. So at a number like plus 260, I'm going to jump on that. And, you know, I locked this in earlier this morning at Cooper Rush over 207.5 passing yards. It's actually now 208.5. But you know what? I listen, I mean, I think that they're going to need to pass the football. And I mean, they're going to need to get, have some confidence in him, much like he did last week against the Bengals, clearly going way over this number. The other way that you could bet this if you want, I'm just looking at this right now. There is a head-to-head passing yards. Cooper Rush is minus 135. Danny Dimes is plus 112. So if you're not as concerned about the number and you just think that, the Cowboys will pass a little bit more than the Giants will, you can jump on that. I actually don't mind that at minus 135. But at minus 110, I'm going to take the over on Cooper Rush. I think he probably finishes up with, 230, 240 in that neighborhood. So I do think that they'll get over that number, even though they will try to establish the run. But I think one of the ways that they will be able to do that is with, screen passes, both to Zeke and in particular Tony Pollard, who had a big game last week against the Bengals.
I'm going to look to Saquon. Well, actually, you just mentioned Tony Pollard, so I'll go to Tony Pollard right now. Tony Pollard, anytime TD tonight, plus 210, which is much better value than Zeke, and I don't really see a lot of separation between the two running backs here. So I think if Dallas is going to punch a couple in tonight, probably going to be one of those running backs. I'd rather take Tony Pollard at plus 210. I think Zeke's plus 135, but I don't have it up in front of me right now. But Tony Pollard is plus 210. I don't know, Hust, you got it there? What's Zeke at?
Yeah,
like you're looking.
This is for the touchdown scores.
Yeah.
Zeke is plus 130. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I like Pollard, the value on Pollard much more than that value on Zeke. So he had one last week, had 9 touches. I think he had 7 targets through the air as well. So they're definitely getting Tony Pollard involved here more than they were earlier in the year, very briefly when Dak was healthy. Now, I am on Saquon, and there's a couple of different ways you can bet Saquon tonight. You could take him. I think the number's 22.5 for receiving yards. overall. It's right there, low 20s. Or you can look at just the over 3.5 receptions. And I'm going to take the over 3.5 receptions. It's minus 123 tonight. A couple of different ways that you can break this down. One, Dallas Cowboys actually do a decent job rushing the quarterback. They're going to get some pass pressure on Daniel Jones tonight. And, that could lead to Daniel Jones on the run. Daniel Jones, though, even if he gets out on the run, there's not a lot of options downfield for him. Half his receivers are banged up.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be good. So what's he going to do? He's going to look to check down and get that ball to Saquon Barkley, and there's nobody else on the field that's going to take those away from Saquon, right? Saquon is a 3-down back. He's out there all the time. He's well over 20 touches. He's been targeted 11 times through the first 2 games, caught 9 of them, had 6 catches in week 1, had 3 catches last week in a little bit of a quieter game. So I'm going to be on Saquon over 3.5 catches here. If the pressure is going to come on Daniel Jones, I think there will be no hesitancy at all to dump that ball off to Saquon Barkley. So it could be another big night for Saquon here.
I like that one, and I'm actually going to go with the over 23 and a half receiving yards.
I'll probably
and the
be
great
on
thing
both.
about that is you can pop that right in one play going forward. But Dable knows the best chance, the best way they can win this football game is get the ball into Saquon Barkley's hands as often as possible. And we certainly will get the rushes, but I think as a check down option, you make a great point about the lack of receivers for Daniel Jones right now. He will be a guy that they'll get to it in the air, get to him in the air as well as the ground.
All right, buddy. That kind of sets us up for Monday night. Then we'll be back talking fantasy next week. I think I had a big win in the listener league this week, so that's nice. I think let me see. I might be getting my listener leagues confused because I got one for the radio show, and then We've got one here, and I think I won. I think I was doing really well in both of them. Let's take a quick peek here quickly. We'll obviously do Dusty's Destroyers. I won by 5 points this week, so I'll take it, Huss.
I lost by 50. The champ is here. Laid one on me with Lamar. Yeah, Lamar, Akers, Gibson, Cooper Kupp, Drake London, Curtis Samuel, and then Mark Andrews. The Lamar Andrews stack had just about 75 points for him.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I actually beat the Jalen Hurts owner with Tom Brady as my quarterback. So that's weird. Luckily, I got Trevor Lawrence on the bench there. There might be a little transitioning to Trevor Lawrence in the Lock Shop Fantasy Football League. So we'll have that for you tomorrow. Obviously, we'll get back to some CFL. We got NHL stuff coming up as well. And then before you know it, and man, what a Thursday nighter this week. Dolphins-Bengals on Thursday night. So that should be a really fun one. I'm already looking forward to placing a wager or two on that Thursday nighter. It should be pretty good. Once again, if you've been watching on the live stream, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just search the Lock Shop. Give us a sub. We're banging out 5-6 episodes per week here during the football season. So you're going to get a ton of content there as well. And follow us on Twitter. We're almost at 1,000 followers on Twitter at Lock Shop Bets. Huss, you enjoy the Monday nighter, buddy.
You got it. Let's keep this rolling, folks.